American building survey. I got some questions that I hope you can answer, bro. If you don't really have a clue, don't be afraid to say so. It's very possible that we can never know. But at least I like to know what I can know. You know. Cause still with the retribution, with the treasured happy waters blow. Then I brought to the hillside, then the Lord of the feet, mama limit shore. From off in the abundant valley was in London, watching boldly declaring the hearts of flame and living were the gain of knowledge. No, it brought me to the streets of Colorado. It sure has changed, it's been a while since I've been here though. When everything never stays the same, you know. The show. They tryna stamp out all of our cultural heritage, yo. It's a shame they do that though. They tryna divide us and make us at each other's throats. I hope that people see through this battle. I'm rich with the man he wanted, water blue. I know to the deep and the wide. For the time, but the high got far when the mighty farmer man to the battle. One to the children of the great blast into the wealth of one is kids made on but dazzling match with purity. I breathe on the zone in the roses that keep glowing in the deep dark lane with the glowing with this blue yellow. Feel down to the greatest value for them sons of golden now beyond the great north on to the generous time of the bar religion of mine. I was in the shadow of the land, I'm never gonna ready for the drama of the land, I'm in the morning phone. The only ones who dare. The moon, it beckons to me soon. The stars do my best, but I don't believe it's slow. The sky, I'm never guessed tonight. I got to know. They know it all now, but the legend was it. I'm going back to the avalanche, and the breath, and the breath, and the mercy, and the love, and the dream of the morning. I'll be on the diligence, the grass, and the children, the young king to the rock, and the infant. Never true, quick form, but a swift true handle in my dead island. Put it one into the round, and the bone, and the caliber bomb, and the knives, and the frame by the love, and the light, and the love, and the grace, and the grass, and the truth. Some land in the day of the strife, and the all lane, rain to the rhyme, and the light, and the stars, and the land, and the limit of the treasure, and the image of the one, and the one, and the hillside glow. She was sound in the love, and the love of both, they morning flow. They marvel of abundance, all the way to bow beyond you know. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever that word was. Hello, water walkers. Hello, history renegades. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. Something like that, right, guys? You got my back, dude? Guys, like, I appreciate all styles here, from hip-hop to country to, like, Viennese waltzes. Here, we don't judge. We like it, all of the music, and we try to imitate all style. Anyway, what are we looking at here? The armament, not the firmament. It's very different. This here is a coal shed. That's right, and I don't make that up. It's a coal shed, all right. Now, this here coal shed is important. If I can recall, this is the Farrell farm, a truck farm. And that means they raise and grow from the earth trucks. No, it doesn't. What it means is, well, it means two things. The truck farm started in the 60s, or I guess its heyday was in the 60s. I'm not sure when it started. We had a lot of immigrants coming out here to Colorado to work at the meat plants and the smelters, the gold and silver smelters and whatnot. And on the side, they would grow vegetables and truck them into town to sell to the local markets. Now, I'm pretty sure the food industry put the kibosh on that because, you know, old Johnny Gubb got to get his hands in everybody's pockets and got to regulate the food above all. We know for why, for nefarious purposes. To more Brian. But regardless, that's what a truck farm is, or what it's referred to as. Now, this one here, the reason why it's included on the survey, because they're about to widen the road heading through here, which is going to cause a little bit of, what do we call, negative, what's it called? Negative. An adverse effect. That's right, an adverse effect. Of course, to mitigate the adverse effect of this rezoning and probably demolition of this property due to the widening of the roads, an urban systems project, which if you know anything about Colorado, if you've spent any time there, my singular experience with it has been, like much of America, still to this day, rapid growth, rapid change, the destruction completely of the rural areas, and the evacuation into the cities. And it's actually kind of tragic. Just the kind of the amount of industry tearing up that state. I personally found it to be deeply disturbing. The changes in the past decade in Denver, in Colorado Springs, in Boulder, and the road in between. Really kind of heartbreaking. And so to read through this little farm description is, it just tells you the story of really what's going on here. This place was settled in the 1860s and 70s. And like I was saying, the truck farming was growing vegetables for local markets. And it was pretty common north of Denver. By the 20s, this region had earned the distinction of being the #1 producer of vegetable in the county, which it held until about the 60s. They had organized into a cooperative association to ensure fair prices, the Garden Association. After World War II, the Denver metropolitan area starts to expand. The planned community of Thornton, 1953, they completed Interstate 25 in the 50s and built Interstate 76 out of the old I-805, and all contributed to the land use changes in the area. Many acres of fertile fields destroyed, dozens of older families in the area displaced by new housing developments and light industry, value of agricultural land risen, inducing farmers to surrender it. And the economics has suffered reversals after World War II. After the war, many members of the younger generations left the family farms for full-time wage labor occupations in Denver and other urban areas. And this decline in families' involvement made truck farming more difficult and expensive. And the large number of farmers switched from vegetables to alfalfa and grains, which are easier to cultivate and harvest, or have left their land unplowed and found other jobs. And in recent years, this farm is no different. It's been used for pasture, for raising hay. The present owner recalls that Mr. Farrell raised dairy cows, was in the butter and egg business while he owned the farm. They built the main house around 1900 and all the other buildings except for the garage, which was actually moved there from a suburb, and all the older structures are there from the turn of the century. The current owner's father and uncle bought the farm in 1918, and they raised vegetables until the end of World War II. Carrots, turnips, beets, rutabagas, onions. Following the war, they switched to growing grains. They kept some cows and some chickens until recently. They still have a few horses. And the owner's intention was to continue farming as long as he's able to do so. This was in 1970. So the main farmhouse was 2 stories, partially gutted by fire in 72, and at that time it was abandoned. At the time there was a kitchen, there was an unfinished basement, of course. There was a root cellar that's been filled in and plowed over. There was an old ice house, which had been converted to a bee house. And there's a Lower Creek Canal, which carries water about 230 days of the year. It's a primary source of irrigation. The banks of the canal are lined with cottonwoods and willows, and the report says it adds immeasurably to the agricultural setting of the property. There are 2 silos still, and this is very few good examples remain of this type of farm in this region of rapid land use change, and this is in 1970. Imagine by now, these people will be rolling around in their graves to see what happened to their lovely state, and really it's shocking how fast it all happened, to my way of thinking. This is the Mount Evans Crest House. It's the highest business structure in the United States. Well, at least it was until some of the dispensaries came along. Terrible jokes aside, this is a structure of the oldest architectural feature at such a high altitude. Very unusual architecture, and top of the highest paved automobile road in America. And of course, it burned in 1979. Significant architectural design, very unusual location. It's eligible for inclusion due to its unique architecture and its association with persons important in Colorado history, and based on the work of a master. Mr. Justice Gus Reeling built this here Crest House. The Denver architect Edwin A. Francis designed it, we're told. A tourist attraction where 100,000 visitors a year could overlook the plains of Colorado to the east and the Continental Divide to the west. It was very expensive to build and constructed by Taylor Tutt of the Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs, Colorado. J. Quig Newton, later mayor of Denver, and W.S. Carnsey III were investors. The purpose of the building was to take advantage of the auto road to the summit as a concession and to serve the numerous visitors who found their way up the mountain. Very theatrical. It was operated by the Broadmoor Hotel Company until the 50s when it was sold to an operator of the Pikes Peak Summit House. At the time, the Stewart Corporation, which was the family business, operated the Crest House as a place to buy souvenirs, as a coffee shop where famous Pikes Peak donuts were made, and an emergency center. First aid for hikers. They continued to manage the property after it reverted to the U.S. Forest Service in 1969 as part of the original agreement, of course. Shortly after the Forest Service took over it, with 10 years exactly, a propane gas leak caused a fire that gutted the house. The Idaho Springs Volunteer Fire Department made it to the scene in 28 minutes, but there was nothing left of the Crest House other than the concrete walls. Those don't look very concrete to me. The heat from the fire melted the glass windows, warped the steel beams, and of course the wooden interior was a total loss. The only remains were the 4 poured concrete walls and several interior cracked concrete walls. The intense heat cracked some of the stones and separated them from the concrete walls. The property has been abandoned since 1979. So we're to believe that those are cracked stones from the concrete walls. Yeah, right. One can't even tell the difference. Are all these cracked, broken stones from something that was here before? I mean, I don't know. I can't tell. If this was 1979 when this burned, then this picture was taken, shortly afterwards? Mr. Reeling was a German immigrant builder. His style was, quote, old world. Old world! All the materials had to be hauled up Mount Evans and mixed or poured on site. No small task given the road to and the elevation of this building. His use of native stone for the walls. Stonework blends into its surroundings to a point that from a distance it's hard to see the building. It was intended to symbolize the moon and the stars. Okay. To that end, he designed a star-shaped viewing area overlooking Denver to the east and the front range to the north, and using round light fixtures to represent moon. I mean, this sounds like an amazing building. A star-shaped platform overlooking the plains of Colorado, huh? And this is what we got now. Was just a star fort by any chance? They see the steel framework of the star platform has been cut away and removed. The roof timbers and roofing itself has been removed, but not the stones. Some of the walls were just pushed over. There are apparently 5 levels in the building. A large counter was available to sell genuine Indian artifacts. Is this just me, or is this just a very suspicious? Like this thing was just sort of reconstructed. It blew this other one to bits, probably because it was impossible to explain. The U.S. Forest Service obtained a settlement of $500,000 for the loss of Crest House from the propane company, whose faulty connection caused the fire. After several years of consideration as to what to do about the site and the money, the Forest Service made the decision not to rebuild the Crest House, primarily because it would cost too much to restore it. Then what the f*** did you use the funds? Instead, they decided to use them to build a precast concrete shelter building could be attached to the facade of the ruins. Oh, wow. How nice of you. Way to go cheap. And here's the ruins of it. There's a drawing here. I could bring it up on that screen. Doesn't look like cracked concrete walls to me. Looks pretty obviously just like it's made from stone. But this, there's some concrete. It's like burnt wood in between. Star shape, however, is very much like the Statue of Liberty. And there you go. There's part of it. You can tell here, this must have been a photograph of it before it was burned. You see the angles here on the star? I mean, it looks like an old star fort. It was built on the ruins of something anyway. I mean, all this looks like ruins anyway. But I see the glass and metal is just imitating the stone base here. Looking more like something that they found and just built another deck or two on. I mean, even this looks like all this whole area. Who knows what happened here? A rather dubious story. Regardless, a fire burning so hot the concrete melted. All that was left was stone. I mean, maybe. Crazier things have happened. But the craziest thing of all would be believing these people. After all the lies they've told us, memory holding the last few years, we'll never forget. This is the Manzanola Bridge. Fun to say, but boring to read about. In 1911, they considered construction of 2 bridges across the Grand Colorado River, lacking funds for both despite a special levy approved in 1909, and completed in 1 year. In 1950, it was moved to its present location over the Arkansas River as a replacement for the 3-truss river bridge built in 1908. Otherwise structurally intact, it is now scheduled for removal. So chances are you'll never see this bridge in real life ever again. So suck it in. Absorb it all while you can in all of its glory. Not looking very interesting to Ma Brian. Best just pretend that exhibit never happened. Colorado seems to be dancing around the edges here. I've been there. Give me the juice, buds. I've seen your buildings. Oh, don't mind us. We're just humble Colorado here. Nothing to see, nothing old world here. Just a bunch of farmers and miners and dirty immigrants. And I'm not buying it. This is the Globeville Community House. Right there. And it's a community center for the immigrant community of Globeville. A residential neighborhood with broad ethnic diversity. There is a basement. There is brickwork. There are doors that are sealed up at some unknown date. Ramon Martinez was the designer and architect. This community house was built in 1920 to meet the needs of the immigrant community of Globeville, which used to be called Holdenville, for workers from the Holden smelter. The name of the smelter was changed to The Globe in 1889, and so Globeville was incorporated as a town in 1891, and then annexed to Denver. People from northern and central European countries came to live here. Pretty much the greatest ethnic diversity of any area in and on, near, or around Denver. William McP., who at the urging of his sister, Margaret McP., had a great interest in helping the people of Globeville. One of Denver's leading realtors at the time, Freddie Ross, proposed that the exchange present the city of Denver with a community house as their annual gift for 1919, and the McP family donated the first building fund. It offered classes in home economics and American history, of course, as part of the Americanization project, run by the University of Colorado. Some 4,000 people were served by this community house. A 13-piece orchestra had been organized to perform and play movies, and other entertainments were regularly presented. There's a small basement room. The water table is a face brick laid vertically. The exterior walls are load-bearing of common brick. The front stoop is a non-original concrete platform. I wonder, if this is non-original, then how indeed did they enter the building in the beginning? If they run and jump through? Front entrance has double non-original wooden doors. In the north are steps leading down to the basement door. At the side of the rear is a non-original doorway, now sealed with wood. There's a small opening now sealed into the basement on the north side. Interesting. Their boiler and furnace were in the basement are no longer there. And such is the repurposing of this here older worlder building. Globeville, huh? Couldn't be a more contrived name if I ever heard for myself. Perfect name for it, really. Doctrinization, Americanization of the people, and what's going on here? You already know. This asymmetrical building should at least go down to, right? Yes, like this. Same with this one. If we believe in symmetry, which we do, don't we? Picture, if you will, all this being flooded. Like this. All flooded out. Oh, goodbye, cruel world. Shouldn't feel that thumping. Poor form, I say. I know better than that. Mama didn't raise no fool. He raised himself. We are downtown, Denver. The West Wasey Street District. Warehouse District. Something or other. Yes, that's the one. This old boy. Now, history tells us here that in compliance with Section 800.4 of the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation Regulations, the potential effects of the proposed undertaking were evaluated. It was determined that the future development of the Auraria Parkway will adversely affect the Wheezy Street buildings. Potentially, although they'll be retained intact, the structures will be oriented towards the proposed parkway, posing a potential adverse visual effect. Recordation to the Historic American Building Survey standards was prescribed to mitigate the project's potential adverse effect. And you know what this means? We've been through this before. It means we're gonna fuck up your stuff and ruin your cultural heritage in exchange for this little write-up that no one will see except for me and whoever else follows this friggin' channel. Auraria, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the first permanent settlement in present-day Denver. This pioneer town grew up at the confluence of the South Platte River on the west bank of the Cherry Creek in the fall of 1858 following the discovery of gold in the vicinity. The competing town of St. Charles, better known as Denver City, was established on the opposite side of Cherry Creek the same year. The two towns were rivals. I added that part. But they were consolidated under the name Denver, with former Auraria known as West Denver. And at first this West Denver was the larger populated, more substantially constructed, and possessed a large part of the wholesale and retail trade, but its early prosperity was cut short by the disastrous Cherry Creek flood of 1864, which destroyed many of the town's buildings. It was so disastrous that no one's ever heard of it. As a result of this situation on the lower ground west of the creek, West Denver sustained the greatest damage from the flood, causing some residents to relocate to the eastern parts of town. During the latter half of the 1860s, nearly all commercial construction occurred on the east side of the creek, setting the pattern for future growth. A description of the depressed condition of the west side in 1867 suggests the early roots of the warehouse district. Keep in mind, this is a mining town. They just discovered gold in 1860, the wild, wild west, and here we are, got these industrial buildings that look like this. That don't make no dang sense. They say that there's not been as much improvement on the west side as on the east side of the creek, but the west side has not entirely gone up. Mercantile business is about deserted Ferry Street. There are a number of brick stores that have located on this side would command good rents, but as they're useless, save as warehouses for storage or surplus stocks. The contrast between the two sides of the city grew more and more dramatic over the next few years, as East Denver released an album dissing West Denver, and a substantial street and rap battle occurred. Let's peek about 1880. Larimer Street featured many imposing commercial buildings, including the newly completed Table Ore building at Larimer and 16th Street, which surpassed all others in size, character, and expense. While this fabulous building has been demolished, Still, though, the square represents an intact block of 19th century buildings from its period of prominence. With the commercial dominance of East Denver firmly established, West Denver was basically residential warehousing. Ironworking, blacksmith shops, you know the type. Brewing, flour milling. The arrival of the railroad provided a much-needed boost to West Denver industry, but growth was hampered by the railroad's self-interested policy. Shocking. The railroad acting in its own interest? That's a rarity. Over the next 3 decades, repeated flooding of the South Platte River and Cherry Creek shifted the river's course to its current location, several blocks to the north. Shifted the river's course, huh? Interesting. Anyway, the expansion of Denver's railroads and the lifting of excessive shipping rates after 1885 contributed to a period of unprecedented growth in industry. 100 immigrants a day coming into this state. No doubt from their consistently destabilized regions, one might add intentionally. The sole industry was represented by the Anheuser-Busch Brewery Depot at 10th and Wasey, and around 1886 the first of these substantial brick warehouses was constructed. Boosh. Flooding as usual, river finding a new course, railroad arriving, all signs of the time. The architect of these buildings are unknown, since Denver building permits are not available for the period of its construction. This is true of the majority of the buildings in the warehouse district. Architects are mentioned only for those known. Wow. What an enlightening sentence. The architect's only mentioned when it's known? Why, are you sure it's never mentioned when it's not known? The J.M. Moore warehouse was constructed in the early stages of a boom. Broad stone sidewalks, the papers call for. They need to remove a few of the old buildings which are disagreeable to look at. I thought there were no old buildings. Well, there was a viaduct project 3 years that was into its initial construction. It was a failure. With the silver crash of 1893, every industry in Denver went into decline. 6 years later, however, there was a business revival, and Desks Incorporated became the hottest new place in town to hang out, probably, which was formerly known as the Colorado Casket Company. Wow, these all sound like such great places to hang out. Then again in the 30s, everything of course failed, and the construction of the Aurora Higher Education Center in the 70s resulted in the demolition of many of the historic buildings remaining in the West Denver area. And the construction of the new Spear Viaduct will require the demolition of the J.M. Moore warehouse, the original warehouse in the West Wasey streets. Proposed plans by the city of Denver for parking, landscaping, and other amenities should assist in the preservation of the remaining structures, of which there are, what, 1? Bullshit. This year, 1201 is I believe, the old casket company. In any case, all these amazing buildings, we're told, were just built by some industry guys. They just happen to have, all the same type of, archways and fancy brickwork and all that as the others, and the triple doors. But don't you worry, it's just some old miners that got some magazines and decided to try to copy them. You know how they are. And this door definitely, is symmetrical. It would look stupid extending down into the ground. Symmetry's so overrated, That would look stupid. And this going down to here like this, like actually symmetrical, that would look so stupid. Same with these. This one should not match the ones above it. No. That looks stupid. Nope. You're wrong, sir. You are wrong. Everything is as it's supposed to be. Yes, there was talk of flooding, and yes, there was talk of river finding a new course, and yes, there was talk of all that. But that's not the same thing. Look at this is supposed to be like this. Okay? It is. Like this. That's the way they wanted it. They wanted it to look stupid. That's why they put so much money into it. They wanted it to look like this. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to feel dizzy all the time? Lots of people try to feel dizzy all the time. Like even elephants get drunk on fruits and shit. They run around and ferment in their bellies, and they have fights with trees. That's what I heard. This looks just ridiculous. And even more so when you accommodate this right here. Just so happens to be level with the road there. Just so happens to be level right there. It's not as if this part was under, mud or anything, and then they had to dig it out, and then they had to repaint it because it looked so deteriorated. That couldn't be the case. It's just that everyone likes a nice, good stripe around there, right around there. Just by coincidence, it matches the grade of the road up here. Okay, but being such a conspiracy theorist. Wagner? Oh, isn't that group that staged that total coup and finally overthrew Putin? My God, it was so awesome. It lasted like a total of 5 minutes. Western media, man, you guys are so on point all the time. And that has to be a gentleman's club, right? Name like that. It's rather telling, don't you think? We're all adults here, right? Either that or it's gotta be a bar. What other name here? Let's get to the bottom of it. Computer of the future. Show me thirsties, and you will do it. This here is substantially renovated in 1980 during a conversion from a commercial warehouse to a bar. I might have known. In fact, I did know. Maybe I've been there. How would you know? And of course, the call number here is this. Come on. You can't make this stuff up. Somebody's got a sense of humor. That, and didn't we already look it up? It was number 70? So it's both numbers? They did that on purpose. You know what's going on, right? Come on, guys. Quit being so juvenile. This here is the Highlands Ranch. For the past few thousand years, it was a well-known spot for the various tribes of wandering Indians, particularly for its stone, which could be worked into arrowheads and spear points, and apparently homes as well. But these people have left the Utes, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, and others, but these people have left relatively little behind as evidence of their stay, except for these houses we moved into. The first non-Indians in the region were almost certainly Spanish explorers, though the Spanish never established permanent settlements in what we know today as Colorado. They often visited the area, took pictures, and went home. The earliest visit could have been in 1541, when Juan Francisco de Coronado perhaps crossed the southern tip of the state in his search for gold. But there's no evidence that the Spanish came to this particular locale, but in view of the many expeditions that came close, either to explore, to pursue hostile Indians, or to recapture escaped slaves, it is likely that their paths crossed to the ranch. So if I'm sitting at home and I'm just imagining reasons why people would come here, probably to pursue Indians or recapture slaves or whatever, find gold, that's all those people thought about, those damn Spaniards. And prior to 1753, the ranch property was claimed by France as a part of their Louisiana. At the time, they go ahead and they just threw in the territory to Spain. They gave it to them in the terms of the Treaty of Paris. Like, all right, well, if you act now, I'll throw in a hoe that'll bluff your knob, and also this little bit of a ranch I've got over there in Colorado, which you'll never go to, unless you're gonna like look for gold or chase down slaves or something. And in 1800, with Napoleon dominating continental Europe, the area again became French, so they were Indian givers, that's where their name came from probably, under the Treaty of San Ildefonso. Then, and 3 years later, Napoleon abruptly sold the territory to the young United States. He needed the money for a fix, we're told. There followed a long, drawn-out period of almost random exploration that brought the first Americans close to Highlands Ranch, except for the fact that there was already Americans here. Because if you live here, you know, and this is America, then you're American. Visits by Zebulon Pike in 1807 and Major Stephen Long in 1820 may have provided the opportunity for the first official visit. At any rate, they came close. We know that. Other expeditions that passed through the area were those of Colonel Henry Dodge in 1835 and the flamboyant John Charles Fremont, whose glitter-filled expeditions in the 1840s and 1853 brought him to the area on several occasions. However, the fur trade brought the largest number of Americans to the area. Hundreds of rugged independent mountain men found their way across what Long had termed the Great American Desert to pursue the curious little aquatic animal whose fur was a fat of the wealthy. Come on, you dirty beavers, get over here. Mommy wants a new neck scarf. No stream, no pond, no valley was left unexplored by these hardy men / douchebags. There is no question but that sometime, perhaps many times, many a leather-clad white man and occasionally a black mountain man like Jim Beckworth crossed the future side of the ranch. This article is disgustingly stupid. Between 1840 and 53, when the fur trade was in decline, and before gold was discovered in paying quantities, a number of curious men their way to the region. Men like Rufus Sage, Dr. Wislas Ninnis, William Gulpin, Frederick Ruxton, cousin to Teddy Ruxpin, and many others who came to see what this area had to offer. We are fortunate that many of them left descriptions of what they saw, which added to the growing fund of knowledge, of which this author pulled zero from. The Pikes Peak Gold Rush was the major motivator for large numbers of people to come what was to be Colorado, founded mainly on myth and promotion and encouraged by depression in 1857. The rush brought 100,000 people across the desert. Weird, because didn't that just happen a few years prior to San Francisco? Only 50,000 came all the way, and only exactly 25,000 stayed. But these hardy few formed the nucleus of a new territory. Numbers of Americans scoured the area in their search for gold and beavers. Through the Douglas County area has several mines. None of them proved to be a major bonanza. The real wealth of the area remained to be discovered by a different breed of people, farmers and cattlemen. More patient perhaps than their gold-seeking counterparts, they sought to make a more modest fortune by using the land in a different, less destructive way. Like David Gregory, who filed for 80 acres in Section 6, Township 65, Range 68, on January 4th, 1867. By the end of the year, he had two neighbors, Charles Babcock and Jesse Easttack. David Gregory lost his homestead, and it reverted to the public land rolls in 1870. Soon to be homesteaded by others with more determination than that pussy. Between 1867 and 1910, when Lily Hosack filled in on 80 acres, no less than 189 individual filings were made on the present Highlands Ranch, and of these, 60 were cancelled. By the culture of the day, no doubt. A number of companies also owned property here, such as the Union Pacific Railroad, the Pueblo, the Arkansas Valley Railroad, and the Kansas Pacific Railroad. The railroads own all of it. Many of these people built primitive homes of stone, log, and perhaps sod, and sometimes turds, but it appears that none have survived. Only these strange castles that just came out of nowhere. Unless we're getting to that, let's read on. John Springer and Johann Weld began to increase their holdings and build sizable ranches for themselves. They were different types, and they achieved their purpose through somewhat different means. Both were eminently successful. John Springer was born in 1969 in Jacksonville, Illinois, to John and Sarah Springer, a family of some local prominence. A genealogical study done for the family traced the line to the Springers of Germany, and from thence to such notables as the Tsar and Grand Duchess of Russia, Charlemagne, Otto the Illustrious, Alfred the Great, and finally Adam. Springer's father was a lawyer, and an uncle was a member of Congress. He attended the Powell University, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree. Then he attended the law school and was admitted to the bar in 1880, at the ripe age of 21. After a tour of Europe, he settled down and practiced law in Jacksonville for 10 years, was appointed the clerk of the Committee on the Territories for the House of Representatives, and in 1891, at the ripe age of 32, he was a member of the Illinois State Legislature and was also engaged in banking in Dallas. How is this possible? So let me get this straight. He graduates in 1880 at age 21. After a tour of Europe, which I guess was for a day, he settled down and practiced law in Jacksonville for about 10 years, making him 31, not counting for his one day of tour of Europe. 1 year later, at age 32, he was somehow a banker in Dallas and a member of the Illinois State Legislature. Then he got married to a daughter of the wealthy cattleman and financier Colonel Hughes, who was president of the Continental Land and Cattle Company with large land holdings in Montana and Texas. $3 million worth of corporate stock. Springer was swiftly appointed vice president. His wife's ill health forced him to move to Denver, where he quickly rose to local prominence. Of course, how could he not? 6 years after all this, he was somehow on the committee which set up the first National Livestock Association. More than 1,000 delegates came, despite severe weather. And Governor W.A. Richards of Wyoming proposed that Springer be made temporary president. The motion was seconded by Governor Jared Bush of Colorado and A.P. Bush of Texas. That's Governor Bush and A.P. Bush. Don't get it mixed up, you douche. And under his skilled leadership, the National Cattlemen's Association got underway. He was elected president and held that post in 1904. So all that, and this motherfucker is 45 years old. Bullshit. Oh yeah, he was also candidate for mayor that year and was active in Republican politics. And he was twice promoted by the Colorado delegation for the national vice presidential office, first with Theodore Roosevelt, and then again 4 years later with William Howard Taft. Not all went well for him forever. In 1904, his wife died, and so he married his second wife, Isabel, shortly thereafter. Isabel brought him scandal, and he divorced her. He remained single until 1934 at age 74, and then remarried. Lived to the age of 85 and had acquired an impressive list of accomplishments. Founding the Continental Trust, director of Capital Bank, an officer of the Chamber of Commerce, a promoter of the Colorado sugar beet industry, a member of the Denver Country Club, the Denver Athletic Club, the University Club, the Gentlemen's Riding and Driving Club. Bullshit! That's just one of the guys who owned all these castles. The other guy was Johann Welt. Welt was not born with advantages. He was an immigrant born in Austria in 1843. He landed in New York in 1867 and quickly, perhaps wisely, headed west, reaching Denver. In 1872, he formed a partnership with Placidus Gassner in the plastering business. Get the fuck out of here. Before homesteading in Douglas County. Placidus Gassner in the plaster business. Right. 1878, Welt married Miss Teresa Berlinger, and they produced 3 daughters. He built the ranch house known as the Big Dry Creek Cheese Ranch, and he manufactured brick and Limburger cheese for 50 fucking years. Their dairy farm started with 21 cows. Welt was an ingenious individual. He devised a water system for the cheese factory. An ingenious use of pipes conveyed the water from boiler to house and factory and back to the boiler for reheating. The main source of energy was cow chips. In other words, turds. Just like I said, by the 1890s, he was so well known for his innovations that people came from all parts of the country to observe his methods. And look at that door. What a juicy door. In 1906, Scientific Farmer interviewed him, and they were the most impressed with his dry land farming techniques and with his juggling skills, not to mention the success that he enjoyed with his orchards. By that time, he had 10 acres of apple, cherry, plum, and pear trees, alfalfa, wheat, barley, corn, and mangelwurzels, a type of beet fit only for cattle. Weird. So John Springer began acquiring land on the present site of Highlands Ranch. Springer, in typical douchey style, had more than 23,000 acres, the largest landowner in the present area. He began renovation and construction of his ranch house. Renovation, eh? Okay. Just how much was done by the time Springer took over is difficult to tell, but the original design, how about that? Took over from what? Senior, the new owner, made his fortune with Carnegie Steel, and he was vice president of the Carnegie Corporation. And of course, he served as senator for 20 years. And his sons today are involved in trucking, professional sports, aka the Broncos, ranching, and real estate. This fucking castle, this ridiculous modern-day castle with all this old-world accoutrement belongs to exactly who you would expect it would. The who's who of the who's who. What a long-winded story. And of course, it's the freaking Carnegies. And here you are with the same 2 buddies. And I'm sure this is just ridiculous to think that this was built in the way in the era when they said it was. You got your little swastika here, you know what I'm saying? This little hidden in there, little energy thing. You know what's going on here, don't you? You know what's going on. I know what's going on. The old energy symbolism, you know? Not our symbol, and not the Nazis either. Older than that. Glorious bathtub, really. I don't think I've ever seen a door curved quite like that. That is pretty cool. And what a little elegant little place, you know? I mean, fantastic. The same toroidal shape here. And again, I just can't help but think that what you're looking at here is just symbolic. The same toroidal shape even has the movement right here. Toroidal shape, indicating energy flow up the column here, possibly even telling you where electric beams are placed in the house. I don't know, like an indicator almost. And we're just like, oh, what a cool style. Let's just leave it. And actually, it's actually like a warning label kind of. I mean, would anyone really be surprised? I know I wouldn't. Oh yeah, just a bunch of cowboys. This is how it looked when we found it. Now look what we did with it. We're so amazing, guy. And it is a really beautiful home, but I just, it's the backstory that's This leaves much to be desired for more Brian. Not looking like very ranch style, like old Western style, whatever. Not to me, anyway. Something else going on here. I think you know. Oh, here's what it looked like when we first moved in. It was just a bunch of dirt. Luckily, our boys know what to do with that dirt. What you do is you pile up some dirt on top of the other dirt, and then you add a little water, okay? And then when it turns into hard dirt, then you mold it. And then you call a guy from Finland, and he shows up, and then boosh. You know, next thing you know, you wander around, you got 30 properties. We definitely built this. You can tell this is very, very new. And all this, very modern construction, all this. It wasn't like we showed up here and there was these houses like buried or whatever, and we had to dig all this out. No, we built them into the hillside like that. It's the style. It's what we like. We wanted this part just to be brick and the rest to be of shoddy wood quality. This is how we do it, okay? Don't question us. I mean, if these trees are an indication, well, let me guess. You planted that tree, then you came back 100 years later and built the house next to it? Yeah, right. And then you promptly wandered away from all of it. Just left it all, you know. We said, fuck it. It was cool here. There was gold and shit, and now there's not. We had a bunch of stuff going for us, but I don't know, man. We got a little bit bored, and we decided just to wander off, because, I mean, fuck it. We didn't build these or pay for these. Don't worry about it, okay? Don't worry about it. Just look at that, and then know that that's where you are, and then we'll be all good here. Here we are at Dumpsville. Population U. Just kidding, guys. Moving on, and hold on. I just have to know. What property is this? It's gorgeous. I just want it in and around my mouth right now. A cheese ranch. I fucking knew it. It's the same cheese ranch we heard about from the Austrian feller. On there. Farmhouse still used. Barn deteriorated. This is an 1879 farmhouse and 10 outbuildings. A garbage, a granary, a storage shed, and some exceptional, very old cottonwood tree. The location is singularly attractive, though marred by an abundance of old cars, trucks, parts, and other signs of urban blight. Ew. Get someone out here immediately. Those college guys, who are they? God junk boys. Tell them to haul it all off, and I'll pay them in rolls of nickels. It should suffice. It all spends the same. Damn it, Jimmy. Don't talk back. Here's where you'll be sleeping, Jennifer. Dinner's at 8. In addition to the building surveyed, what is this weather vane thing? You're so weather vane. You probably think this video's about you. That was weak. And we'll fix that in post. We'll add some laughter or something. That's right, folks. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. It is divine. Now, we're told that in addition to the building survey, there are a number of peripheral structures of interest. On the west side, there's a privy, in good condition. The privy is always worth seeing. Other buildings of note on the west side include a chicken house, the cupola vent. Further on, one runs into a well, a cistern still fed by a working windmill, with a steel derrick, and the remains of what may once have been a cottage. That's right. And if that doesn't entice you, there's also an ice house, a shed, a corral, a bunkhouse, and a garage, or a garage, and a workshop. And all of these are in very poor shape and have little historical or architectural significance. So I'm sure you'll enjoy them the same way that I haven't. What goes on there, I wonder? Damn it, where's my arrows? Mean my arrow. There you are. And, almost as if it's a dead man tail. Anyway, this old pirate house, next to this pile of dead sloth. Oh, look, it's a Native American Indian arrowhead. Oh my god, amazing. The primitive caveman. Hopefully, it's understood that I don't believe that to be the case. So, spare me your anger, me lords. For I am on Team Humanity, and though I may be obnoxious, I'm yours. This is the McGurk Nordstrom house, and you know what they say. God made McGurk, and McGurk don't twerk. He's a classy fellow who wouldn't be caught dead doing it. This structure is associated with prominent Battlement Mesa citizens and reflects a distinctive vernacular design. Richard McGurk was the first school jerk, the county assessor, and teacher when he worked. And though he came from somewhere up north, this is a gabled roof with dormers and a small end wall porch. The house is located, approximately, 1400 degrees northwest of the cemetery. And though the information on this site is but little, I get so excited my mouth spews some spittle. And thus ends the worst poetry hour of our time. Thank you. I'll be back. I love open mic night. Talk about your fixer-upper. Over here, we have, some other junky building, no doubt. Colorado, probably ranking by my standards amongst the lowest in the way they treat the building. Have we seen a single building that hasn't been demolished or destroyed or decayed or anything? Doesn't seem like it. They've all just been, well, I guess that last ranch house was pretty cool. Even though they're like, went painstakingly out of the way to say, oh, clearly there's no one built this except for maybe us. This is a Spencer house. 1905 constructed, architect unknown, just like almost everywhere here. And it's located on the first river terrace south of Monument Gulch, and there's literally nothing else about it. They don't know who the architect is, but they know the stone is quarried locally, right? That sounds to me like you're just guessing, buddy. Look, anyone can do that. And this is it looking even more distraught, I think, in later years. Somehow being protected, and why? I don't know. Meagerly protected with a little chain link fence. Was that going to stop? And that's an interesting, what is that, a mine? A quarry? Or just something that I'm not supposed to pay attention to? Just look at that window. My God, in all of its old world glory. Just how do they do it? It's a mystery. And this one's built with Lincoln logs, except the adult kind. As a young suburbanite, I wasn't allowed anywhere near the big ones. It's kind of abusive. It's like making me eat off the kids menu when I'm 53. I mean, I'm not 53, but if I were, then the kids menu should be off limits for me. This is Horseshoe Ranger Station. The very famous. So famous, in fact, that it's unheard of. It's significant on a local and possibly state level, one of the first ranger stations built and used in this Arapaho National Forest. 1909, they say it was probably constructed. Considering a lack of records, it appears that the smaller building was the original guard station in probably 1909. This one was probably built in 1930s, and these buildings followed standard U.S. Forest Service plans for guard stations. So, yeah, just Lincoln logs and some prefabricated windows. Not sure why it's on here. I guess it represents the creation of our national forests. As timber reserves and national forests were created, rangers were assigned to patrol the land, looking for bears, stealing picnic baskets. Also included in controlling unregulated logging, enforcing grazing regulations, watching for forest fires, and in general preventing settlements from encroaching upon the forest. To say the least, the ranger's job was dangerous. The grazing issue alone caused many a ranger to literally face death in the form of a gun-toting cowboy. The same gun-toting cowboys that erected those amazing buildings in Denver. To provide shelter for its rangers, the Forest Service built guard stations to house employees. A ranger was assigned to each guard station year-round, and from here he patrolled the forest. Usually a 2-room log cabin with an outhouse and a well for water. Also, he was armed. He was given several bazookas and some booby traps to protect himself. Since a ranger was stationed for a long period of time, the guard station became his home. This was a common phenomenon throughout the western United States. Not sure it's a phenomenon, but whatever. I work from home. What do you do? I'm a ranger. Oh, so you live in the forest? Yeah, huh? That's an imaginary conversation I had with the ranger just now. The purpose of these reserves was to protect timber and watershed from uncontrolled development. Well, who's protecting the inner city and our buildings from uncontrolled development, Who are the street rangers? Where are the rescue rangers? Chip and Dale, I'm talking to you. It should be noted that the original ranger station building has been removed and is now located in Hot Sulphur Springs, Colorado, aka hell. I got promoted, Mom. Where to? Hot Sulphur Springs? Have you heard of it? You should come visit. Sounds lovely. The rear of this building was so overgrown by large bushes and trees that photography of the rear of the structure was impossible. So remember that, kids. If you're trying to run a red light that's protected by a camera, just protect your rear with a bunch of overgrown bushes and trees. Then they'll never take a picture of your license plate. And you'll blend right in with the scenery. This here Colorado survey is, I don't know what I expected, I guess. But I feel like they're kind of dodging the, they're dodging the real stuff. Kind of sending you, oh yeah, go out there, look at the ranger station. Yeah, that defines us. Oh yeah, over there, that cheese farm. That cheese farm that Hungarian guy had. That's really what Denver's all about. Because really, gun-toting cowboys don't really jive with what I see inland. You know what I'm saying? But we'll give her a chance here. We've got a long ways to go. Who knows? Maybe she'll come around. Either way, we're resilient. I'll take the case. Data pages. Peterson House. That's what we're looking at from across the field here. The photographer is a little scared to get close, sorry. He settled for this here long-range shot where you can just barely make out the house there. Mr. Peterson don't much like being photographed without his permission. And since we forgot the waiver back at the office, it's best that we just take pictures from over here. Now then, you want to know the history? Well, the house is unoccupied at present, which is even weirder why we stand over here and took a picture. But they're going to move the house to the Belmar Museum. Will be used as part of a display of rural history of the area. Representative of many of the historic activities that occurred in the Bear Creek Lake area, the house is associated with farming, dairying, and mining. One of the few surviving examples of rural Victorian vernacular architecture that were common in the Denver area, but are being rapidly destroyed and replaced by modern dwellings that are much uglier. For the gram. I think it's erected or res-erected around 1880 because the state is based upon the architectural style, not on any factual data. Joseph Rist deeded the land under military land grant from Elijah Parker, who served in the Revolutionary War. In 1883, the land was acquired by Levi and Eunuch DeBrust, who probably built the house between 1883 and 1887, who then sold it to the Phelps, who then leased it to the Petersons, who used it extensively for farming and dairying, and was acquired by Mr. Tyken, who married one of the Peterson family daughters-in-laws. I guess he became a daughter-in-law, right? The Peterson family daughter and became a son-in-law? That doesn't make no damn sense. The house and the surrounding lands are largely used for agricultural and ranching, though there was an oil lease on the land held by the DeBrust family. It does not appear to have been exploited. Just saying, we could dig an oil well if we wanted to, but we don't feel like it right now. Just saying, though. Balloon frame. I love balloons, said the inner child in me. I hate balloons, said the grumpy old man in me. God, they're always at war. Everyone's divided along these lines, you know? It's like they got us by the balls. At least those aren't divided. I mean, they kind of are, but, you know, not really. Not painfully. Thank Jesus. Not like I would admit it to you guys if they were. I'd be like, everything's all fine down here. Why? Who wants to know? So if I ever say that, you know what's really going on. I've been damaged goods! Or I have damaged goods. Whichever. I mean, I don't, but I would if I were talking like that. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about Colorado. Let's talk about, the Rooney Ranch, maybe? Yeah, let's talk about this here Rooney Ranch. I'll bet the farmer's first name was Macca. Man, I'm on a roll. It's like, where does he get this impressive highbrow humor from? You've been hanging out at the finest pubs in London? You've been watching old videos of the Parliament as they diss each other with all the austerity and proper pronunciation of a backhanded courtesan, whatever? I had something. They really do that best, you know, those Englishmen over there. They have a way of cutting to your core while being polite somehow. Thou hast no more brain than I have in mine elbows. That sort of thing. Or, you know, oh, he's just a shiver looking for a spine to crawl up. This is the Rooney Ranch, one of the oldest ranches in Jefferson County. It was built in the 1860s. Amphitheater over here. It's a little dubious, and the property looking completely level and with the grade, so nothing suspicious there. And that looking like it's made for children. These people 4 feet tall. Looks very, very old and very janky. I wonder its true history. And yeah, that doesn't look sunk into the ground or anything. Totally normal. Nothing to see here, folks. Just the Rooneys. They're tiny, they're toony. Their ranch's name is Rooney. This is their horseshoony. And they're invading your TV. That might be another musty reference. Who knows? Who knows where this stuff comes from? Now this one looks a bit mysterious, if I do say so myself, Gavner. It's the San Juan and New York Mining and Smelting Company, just as I thought. Been abandoned since 1963. Radioactive contamination of the site and its remaining structures resulting from uranium processing in the 40s, 50s, and 60s has made the site eligible for the Department of Energy remedial action, which consists of decontamination and stabilization at another location. Removal of the site structures, tailings piles, and adjacent soils is supposed to begin in 1987. There are 2 of these in Durango, Colorado, largest smelting operation in the San Juan mountain mining region, processing gold, silver, lead, and copper. In the 40s, it started processing uranium for research in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and the post-war security programs. Brick and stone smelter stack located at the base. One of only 2 surviving structures of these complex ore smelting sites. The San Juan Mountains, I mean, if you can believe that. Who knows what that actually was. So for 20 years, this thing worked. That's it. As early as the 1870s, there was smelting facilities in these various mining camps. Poor production of these early smelters, we're told. They left Silverton, moved to Durango for reasons of weather. And as usual, I'm suspicious, but I don't know why. Worst depression of the century in the winter of 1893, resulting in a mining crash, which the smelter was not able to recover. Plant closed in 1894, opened the next year, was repurchased, and it closed again in 30 years after that. Following the shutdown, until 1942, most of the buildings were razed. Inoperative until 1942, when World War II created demand for vanadium, a steel hardener found in carnotite ore for military equipment production. And so they refired up the old site again, and they worked again for a couple years, and then now 3 years, and this time it was closed. 1948, they reopened it again to produce uranium concentrate, and then it slowly closed in 1963. Although the town of Durango was grateful for it, sort of jump-starting its economy. This stone pedestal, the lowermost part, is a 20-foot rusticated sandstone hollow pedestal. It's an arched opening in the northwest side. Very strongly built on deep stone foundations. The stone pedestal walls continuing below grade to a depth of 12 feet, and a deeper foundation may exist, but no evidence has been located to verify it. The stone blocks are 12 inches high by 13 inches deep. Sounds very ancient. Because the retaining wall is not keyed into the stone, and because of its crude construction, it's assumed to post-date the construction of the stack. Yeah, because everything we built later sucks. The base is composed of 54 courses of brick laid in common bond, 18 feet high. That's just the base. Damn. The brick shaft is 90 feet above the base and continues at the same taper. An elaborate corbelled capital began at this point on the original 1880 stack. Early photographs show this original capital composed of 15 brick courses. That's insane. They took it off in 1942 to construct a stack extender to stop the damaging occurring to the vegetation of the adjacent hillside from the acid smoke. The shaft extension is 63 feet above the main shaft, but either way it fucked up the whole area and now everyone's pissed. Decontamination and preservation was considered not feasible, and the process would jeopardize its architectural and structural integrity. Therefore, demolition was considered the only feasible course of action. They planned to destroy it as early as 1987, of course. Just another excuse to tear shit down. We know what's going on. There's no fucking way. In 1800, they built this. Cowboys and miners. Yeah, right. Poppycock and balderdash, I say. Why would they put all this flair into it? No. Just like all these buildings, clearly added to later. Or this part was underwater, got all soggy and fucked up, and this part wasn't. That's why this whole thing, look at the way this thing's sitting in the ground. Clearly knocked off base and like submerged in water at some point. Look at that thing. No way. I says no way. These are all the various other buildings, part of the whole operation. The whole damn kit and caboodle. The Dill brothers, huh? That was supposed to be an arrow. Oh yeah, very necessary. This whole archway. Totally something that they would do. Clearly this is a repurposed building, just like we see in Pennsylvania and California. And everywhere, turning it into whatever operation they want, pillaging the earth, using this old machinery to extract stuff. And look how sad he is. He's like, oh. He's like, boo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo. That'd be sad too if I were you, Buster. Look at that foundation. What a joke built like that. My booty. That one's pretty bad. Pretty obvious. I should save that one. That's what I should do. Add it to my Mudplood folder. Well, whatever. I'll do it another time then. This looking like those old, Norwegian rooftops, we're told. Only in Norway did they do it that way. Or Scandinavia, whichever it is. What's going on here? Go from that to this? Yeah. Not really of the same, integrity, I think is the word. Is it? No, it's not. No, it's not. Oh, don't mind us out here. We're just, scraping by, getting, you know us. Just growing, scratching around in the dirt, hoping that we can make some potato soup or something, or water soup, with a little bit of grass or whatever. This is the Coolman-Perriman Ranch. And I have no reason to believe that this was not a ranch. It sure does look like one. It also looks like 40 miles of bad road. Like if Keith Richards were a ranch, he'd be this one. I think we've seen one building this entire survey so far that wasn't destroyed or on the way to be destroyed. Is this how you protect your cultural heritage, Colorado? Because it sure seems like it. Damn, that's impressive. Burn it down. I mean, if I built that, I'd be happy man. I'd be showing that shit off on Instagram. Hell, I might even make an Instagram just to show it off. Hey guys. That seems a little low for them, right? I mean, what do I know though? Cobwebs and the frickin' take care of your horses, will you? Surprised anybody even lives here. Damn. That is, ma'am, are you all right in there? Hell, Carol moved out and took the lawnmower. Now I'm stuck in there. Weed whacker just to go out and get your mail. That is a very rustic way of living though. It was probably very lovely at one point until whatever happened. It's the outhouse, huh? Talk about getting a splendor right up the old Jaxie. No mushroom hunting allowed? Is that what that says? Okay. And I don't understand if that's a dirty joke or what. Let's go ahead and walk away from this one, kids. These people are a different type of lifestyle than us. What happened here? Big old giant took a bite out of the top of it? No admittance. We ain't admitting shit around here. That's right. I didn't know they had igloos in Colorado. This is a strange survey. By far the strangest yet. We've got a ways to go though. Colorado could turn it around. Maybe they're showing us the crappiest ones first. This is the Shattuck Chemical Company? Can that be right? No, not right. Never mind that. Belay that. They don't use the codes, remember? It takes me forever to find anything here, which is why I'm kind of going stir crazy. I can't go at my own pace. I've got to keep fumbling around with these numbers that they keep botching. I kept bitching. This is the Spruce Tree Terrace. It is also known as the Eileen Nussbaum Hospital, 1926, National Park Service. This is where they apparently gave medical attention to people who hurt themselves somewhere out here. Severe deterioration and structure is vacant. Yeah, we're going to put these on the historical, but we're not going to put all those buildings downtown, those beautiful brick ones. We're going to fuck those up. We're going to put these on there. Is that right? Do I have it right? Buttheads. All right, you see how these poles here, these stick out of these beams that are common construction? Keep an eye out for certain hillsides that have rows of square poles and parallel lines, and you will perhaps get what I'm referring to. Also, this T-bar here, this wooden cross beam. Just remember that when we're looking at hills, and you'll see what I me. Correction. Here's where you'll be sleeping, Jennifer. And dinner's at 8. That other place was a little too nice for you. This one looks like it's made out of peanut butter. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's peanut butter. Fantastic old safe. Dang. Why would they leave that behind? That is too cool. Where'd it go? There it is. Interesting symbolism there. Very cool. I like that. I like it very much. I approve. More of that, please. More of that. More of this. I want this old world stuff. This. Well, wait, what is that? What a strange place this is. Colorado, I've never seen this sign to you. It's a little ugly. Actually, it's very ugly. Jeez. Did you guys preserve anything? Because it all just looked like the Hulk came through and wilded out. Check out that bolt. It's pretty cool, right? Got a date on it? It's my nephew's birthday. I'll take that bolt. How much for that bolt, Wonka? May I interest in you these other ones? No, I want the one with the date on it. Weird. Even weirder. Those look like Triscuits or wheat thins. Anyway, how many different weird ways can you make a bridge? Lincoln logs, boulders, Triscuits, wheat thins, milk cans. What about you? Mattresses? That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that one. Whatever happened here, we're gonna need some answers. That tree just growing in there. Oh wait, that's not what's happening. That's an illusion! What is all this? A bomb hit this area? I don't know, but I sense much more research about this hellish area in my near future. So on that note, I'll be seeing you soon.